Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me? I hope you can, because otherwise I bought this microphone for absolutely no reason. I'll wait to get some yeses in the chat before we move on. No yeses. I wonder how long the delay is. Is it like 10 seconds, 15 seconds? Perfect. Thomas says, yes, you guys can hear me. I am fired up this morning. I was in a semi-bad mood after hearing all of Australia was going to go into like stage 20 lockdown or whatever we're in at this point. I can't even keep up. They change the terms so often. The lockdowns happen arbitrarily. It's just like 2 days lockdown here, 7 days lockdown here, 1 month here, only allowed out at 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. there, not allowed in certain kind of stores, have to spin around backwards 40 times before you put your mask on and walk into the daycare. It's like, I can't keep up with what's going on. But what I do know is basically everyone in Australia is a prisoner in their own homes at the moment, except for Canberra. I spoke about this briefly on my Twitter. One day I'll get streaming software set up, I promise, guys. But let me just show you this picture on my phone, this super advanced technology here. Here is a map of Australia. Oh my gosh, look at all those fingerprints. This is embarrassing. That's how you clean your phone, guys. Just rub it on your pants. All good. All right, so there's a map of Australia. You'll see it's all backwards, but lockdown, 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 restrictions, high alert. And then you can't even see it. Oh, there we go. Right down there, that tiny yellow dot that's there. That would be Australia's capital, known as Canberra. It's where all the politicians live. It's, where all the bureaucrats are that work for all of the big government institutions. And they are, out of this whole 2 years now, or a year and a half that we've been in this craziness, they're in their first mask mandate. Not lockdown, not restrictions, their first mask mandate ever. Do you think that policies would be a bit different if they actually affected politicians? Because I just have this hunch that things might be a bit different if our policies were actually affecting those people. What's your vaccination stats in Australia? That's a really good question. All I know, because I was in Queensland recently dealing with some family stuff, all I know is that Queensland is like 2%, and everyone's really mad at them for having such low vax stats. But oh gosh, I'm going to get, I know you're not even allowed to mention it on YouTube. I remember I saw Chrissy Meyer had taken down our podcast, and I messaged her and I was like, oh, what went wrong with the podcast? And she said, we accidentally mentioned the V word and not the sexual one, the medical one. I guess both could be medical, but the jab word, and YouTube was going to strike her. So they had to take it down and cut it out. So I'm even worried about these private live streams that it's going to just mess my channel up. I always do, I'll do little tweets about health stuff and COVID, or put out things on my Facebook. And then if you wonder why I delete or remove all of my best content, it's because I sit there and I'm like, is it worth losing my entire account over this one tweet? Well, at least a few people saw it. And I'll usually delete anything I tweet about the jab or about COVID in general within 24 hours, unless I think it's kind of within mainstream conversation. Definitely on Facebook. People are really harsh with blocking and removing Facebook accounts at the moment. Plus, it keeps my followers on their toes. The people who follow me got to be quick if they want to see my content. Daniel says, they're saying if it weren't for double standards, there would be no standards at all. Yeah, no kidding. Definitely applies when it comes to politicians. Someone's doing construction beside me. I apologize. They have no respect for the live stream. Absolutely none. This is my breakfast. We got nice, now it's 2 cookies. Nice healthy breakfast. All right. So Australia in hell world lockdown. I don't know how long it's going to be in lockdown. And the reason I'm kind of in a good mood is, can you guys hear that? Oh, thank you, Jamo. Jamo, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Excellent. You guys can't hear the construction. But the reason I'm in a semi-good mood is I went out yesterday to perform some essential activities in case the government docks me and say that I was breaking, I guess it's on. Yeah, anyways, I was out yesterday committing, going out and doing essential activities. And I was walking around, and half the people I saw were either not wearing a mask or they were wearing the mask. They were doing the chin thing. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but where people are basically like, yeah, I'm wearing a mask, but they wear it like this, or they wear it like that. And it's like, they're clearly just wearing it so that when the hall monitor comes by, they can go like, all right, I did the thing. But it seems like people are really tired of it, especially, in Sydney. Let's see the vax rates here. When you're somewhere where it's like you have an option to get vaccinated if you would like to, and I absolutely believe you should have that right. Go get vaxxed if you want. If this is something you're concerned about, you think it's going to affect you, get the vaccine. Once we've got that, things are supposed to stop. And I think even the normies are like, this isn't making sense. We just saw Rebel Wilson. If you don't know her, she usually plays like the fat girl star in comedy movies. Pitch Perfect. Haven't seen anything with her recently, but she's done SNL and stuff. Recently did an Adele, went and got super fit. Well, I don't know if it's super fit, but the amount of weight she lost is significant. She's looking great. And she just put on her Instagram, what the hell, Sydney? Why are we locking down again? This isn't a strategy, which clearly it's not, because I was just listening to the radio, and apparently Australia is about to have a whole new wave of COVID. So how is this working? How is this lockdown strategy working? I don't know. But even normies, even celebrities are tired of this. Jamo says, I had to wear one yesterday. I could not breathe properly. I literally had another woman say that to me at the store. She's like, I'm sorry, I have to. She literally looked at me because we made eye contact as she was taking her mask off. And she was like, I'm really sorry. I just can't breathe. And you could tell that she was someone who wanted to follow the rules. She was someone that was happy to follow the mandates, but she literally was like, I am carrying a ton of bags. I've got kids with me. I am having trouble breathing, and I'm going to pass out on the floor in this store if I keep having to do this. I literally looked at her and I'm like, I don't care. It's fine. If you can't breathe, that's worse for your health than, in your age bracket, that's probably, you have very little risk of COVID affecting you. Anyways. It's not like I'm sure I have some people in the chat here, or at least watching, that are like, you know what? I think some restrictions are good for COVID. Some may have been overreacting. And I'm not against taking precautions when you've got a disease on the loose. I'm not, H1N1, everyone's like, all right, wash your hands more. Maybe we'll restrict international travel from places with massive outbreaks when it initially came about. Like, yeah, that made sense initially when we were like, okay, no travelers from Wuhan, where this thing is initially breaking out. But we've gotten to the point where it is health theater. I recently posted both on my Instagram and my Facebook. If you follow me, it should be the most recent post on my Facebook, a video in France where all of the politicians are coming up to give a speech. And I think it's the leader of one of the right-wing parties, but some French people were messaging me and saying he's more like, I don't know. I know very little about French politics, but they're saying he's very like neocon or leftist. It doesn't matter. He's going up to give a speech and he's got his party and supporters behind him. And the cameras started rolling before he began giving the speech. So they're filming. And none of his crew have their masks on. They're all sitting there just chatting side by side, shoulder by shoulder. And then, they get the wave, okay, press conference is going to start soon. And they all start quickly putting their masks on before the cameras start. Like, how is that not health theater? We're putting the masks on just to look like we're doing the right thing. None of them were concerned about catching it from each other. And that's what I find interesting is I I think that fear in the population, in the populace, has gone away. When COVID initially broke out, I was terrified. I'm not going to lie. I was following it from a few accounts. Mr. Medicare was talking about it in 2019. I remember watching that, and well before it was in the news, and being like, "This is going to be huge," and telling my husband, and he was like, "No, it's not. It's going to be a nothing burger." And I bought masks. I stocked up on Glen 20. I stocked up on everything well before COVID got in the news. And then, yeah, it just, like, it was not what it was hyped up to be. I know people have obviously died from COVID, horrible, awful, but it's not like we're having people dead in the streets like it's the bubonic plague. It's not like it's a 50% death rate or even a 5% death rate. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the public react, especially as vaccine amounts go up, as more people get vaccinated, as we get further and further into this, as we approach 2 years of lockdown. I really don't think it's going to last much longer. When the celebrities start threatening their careers to say, "I am sick of this," the normies are going to catch on soon. All right. Daniel says, "There's no longer a mask mandate in my state, but individual employers have sway. My workplace will let you go maskless with proof of the vax, and you get a safe sticker on your hard hat." Ooh, this is going to be the next weirdness, though, is we're going to have this whole, are you vaxxed or are you not vaxxed? And to me, it's a very highly personal issue. If you want to get the vaccine, get the vaccine. If you don't. It's up to you. And some people are going to measure their risks more than others. I know doctors that are not anti-vax at all are advising pregnant women right now not to do it because there's been no testing on women during pregnancy. And that's a completely reasonable, scientifically informed perspective on the issue and advice to give. And are those women now going to be discriminated against? You have concerts going on. I'm going to check which band it is, since we should know. Concert where only I can't remember which band it is, but there were a few bands that were selling tickets to their concert, and they were saying only people that are vaccinated could buy them and could come to the events. And I just sat there and I was like, there are people that are legitimately advised by their healthcare professionals that they can't do it. They've got an underlying condition. They've got some sort of disease that they know they can't get these sort of vaccines with. And that's, or they're pregnant and they're being advised by their doctor, you can't do this. So now they're going to be excluded from their basic rights to go and attend events, go to restaurants, work in certain industries. That's really, really entering scary territory, in my opinion. But yeah, I just saw Janice mention the Delta variant is 6 times more deadly to vaccinated. I don't know. I'll have to look into that. But I keep hearing about this. It said still 99% survival chance, whether vaxxed or not. I don't know about this Delta variant. I'll be honest, I haven't looked into it much. I saw a few things on Twitter about it, saw it in the news a bit, and I know people are hyping it up as we're all this is the one that'll do it. We're all gonna die from this variant. But I think everyone is so COVIDed out. They're like, I just don't care. Okay, let it take me. Whatever. I'll take Delta, Indian, Wuhan. Don't care anymore. People are just, if I see that little circle with all the Shrek ears on my TV screen one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. I don't care if they told me there's a new strain that's going to grow me a second head. I just don't care anymore, guys. Just let me grill. Let me go out and see concerts and see my family. I don't care. Okay, let's move topics. NSA. I wasn't going to talk about this today, but I got really into it like late last night watching all of the Tucker Carlson stuff. I'm assuming you guys have seen what happened with Tucker Carlson. For those of you who haven't, Tucker Carlson announced on his show a few days ago that an NSA whistleblower had reached out to him and repeated to him personal emails of his own that only he and certain staff members of his had access to, personal texts of his own that only he and the other individual had access to, and said, the reason I have access to these emails and texts is because I work for the NSA, and we are currently monitoring your personal communications to try and find something we can leak to the public to get your show off air. And this has basically been a mandate of the NSA and the Biden administration. That sounds insane, right? That sounds crazy. But the more you think about it, it's not like the NSA hasn't done shady stuff like this before. And Tucker's pretty convinced that, how did he have these emails? This makes no sense. There has to be some sort of explanation. Now, this is a growing investigation / case. And just yesterday, the NSA gave a response, which I found very interesting. Jen Psaki was asked her thoughts on the whole situation, firstly, while getting onto Air Force One. And her quote was, and this seems to be the repeated answer from anyone in the administration, well, the NSA, as I think you're well aware, as I'm sure everyone's aware, everyone on this plane is aware. It's so funny reading quotes that are like off the cuff, because it's like all you have to say is everyone is aware instead of repeating it 4 times, but it's clearly just a casual conversation. Anyways, I should say the NSA is an entity. So, sorry, someone from the Congo just called me. Some prince trying to tell me that I have my family's $10 billion inheritance to collect if I just give him my credit card number. So decline that and get back to this quote. The NSA is an entity that focuses on foreign threats and individuals who are attempting to do us harm on foreign soil. So that is their purview. But beyond that, I would point you to the intelligence community. To me, that is a huge cop-out of an answer. She's just like reading the definition of what the NSA is. Well, the NSA is supposed to be spying on foreign agencies, and got to get on this plane, go ask someone else. There was no, we're absolutely not. That's ridiculous. And to me, if there was no spying going on against Tucker Carlson, if I were in the Biden administration, I would very definitively say to the public, like, this is a madman. This is like QAnon tier. He's making up conspiracies about himself. No, unequivocally, we are not spying on Tucker Carlson and have never read his emails. That would put it to bed. But no one has been willing to say that, not even the NSA himself. The NSA is a person now, by the way, themselves. All right, so here's the NSA statement. On June 28th, 2021, Tucker Carlson alleged that the National Security Agency has been monitoring our electronic communications and is planning to leak them in an attempt to take this show off air. This allegation is untrue. Tucker Carlson has never been an intelligence target of the agency, and the NSA has never had any plans to try to take his program off the air. NSA has a foreign intelligence mission. We target foreign powers to generate insights on foreign activities that could harm the United States, with limited exceptions. In case of an emergency, the NSA may not target a U.S. citizen without a court order that has explicitly authorized the targeting. Now, while they did say this allegation is untrue, it is important to note what question Tucker asked when he sent his email to the NSA. And the question was, have you been monitoring and do you have access to my emails and my text messages? They never answered that question. All they said was, we do not have plans to take him off air, and he has not been an intelligence target. But have they been reading his emails? Have they had access to them? That's the question which they want answered. And, once again, in the last bit, they go and do this kind of cop-out where it's like, the NSA is a foreign intelligence mission. And you know what? We'd only ever spy on U.S. citizens if it were an emergency matter. I don't understand how it would not be considered. I mean, you look at when they bring in emergency orders and how they are treating, for example, people who were at the January 6th riot protest, even just the just proper Donald Trump event where he was speaking. People are being put on no-fly lists. People are being monitored. Elijah Schaffer, he's being monitored by the NSA, his communications. He's had them come to his door and talk to him. And you think of Tucker, he's gone on air and he's talked about January 6th. He's talked about how he thinks there was FBI inclusion in it. And people are saying this is basically this allegation by Tucker is going to destroy social cohesion. It's spreading conspiracy theories. It's essentially going to cause civil disruption by suggesting this. So could that be grounds for an emergency to monitor an American citizen? Well, the law these days is so fast and loose, it's hard to say what are and what are not grounds to monitor an American citizen. I get on a plane, I try to go to the States, I'm stopped, I'm questioned for hours, they go through my phone, and they get upset over a chat log in WhatsApp that says Trump or Make America Great Again was the name of the chat log. There were no messages in it. And they pressed on that and said, why would you be in a chat group like this? This is suspicious behavior. So if me being in a chat group called Make America Great Again with no comments on it is suspicious behavior to these people, well, I just don't see how Tucker's behavior wouldn't be considered suspicious at the very least. I don't know. It's going to be a developing situation. If for some reason Tucker is wrong and they're not watching him, we better get a pretty good explanation for how this whistleblower had access to his emails and his, text messages. That's going to be interesting to see if this is all false. If it's true, I think that'll come out eventually. If they've actually got an NSA whistleblower on their side, he'll be able to provide documents. I'm sure he'll have recordings. Something will be available, and it'll be very embarrassing for the NSA and the Biden administration. And if this is true, they would be scrambling. They'd be in full panic mode right now. I can see The Office right now, papers flying. Where is he? People just freaking out, trying to either cover their tracks, or maybe this is another potential theory. Maybe it was a rogue sect of the NSA. Maybe it was some group that were able to get special permissions to go off and do this on their own. There's an interesting phenomenon in policing. I'm not sure if you guys have ever been aware of this, but have you heard of the organization Crime Stoppers? I'm not sure if they're in America. They're definitely in Canada and definitely in Australia, but it's essentially an anonymous hotline that criminals or people can call the police with tips and information if they know something about a crime and they want to put it to Crime Stoppers, but not be figured out, because maybe they're part of a gang, or maybe they're a family member of the criminal and they do not want their name outed to the public. So it's this anonymous hotline that people can call. Now, something interesting that has occurred with Crime Stoppers is they found that police officers were calling in crimes to Crime Stoppers anonymously. So basically a police officer would have a hunch that a person was a criminal, but they didn't have any sort of legal right to enter their property or any sort of, what's the word for it? Warrant to go and search their home or arrest them or anything. So they would call into Crime Stoppers and be like, hi, I'm a friend of so-and-so, and I know they committed X crime and they've got Y in their basement. And then they would go back to work and be like, wow, did someone call into Crime Stoppers and say that this person has X criminal activity in their basement? Amazing. I had no idea this happened. Well, now we can write up a warrant to go search their basement because we've received an anonymous tip, when it was the police officer that called in the tip themselves. And then they'd use that to get a warrant to go and invade the person's house. So it was this workaround kind of loop. There's always loops in the legal system for people to take advantage of. And you think, could that stuff be happening within the NSA, the FBI, within these organizations, where you have the organization itself, kind of abusing the system to spy on and get information on who they want, whether it be political targets or legitimate targets? Nobody knows. Yeah, Thomas said, yes, the cops have used that to make an excuse to raid people. Yeah, it's a very, I can see the benefits of that. I could see a cop being like, I know this person is the murderer. I know this person is the rapist, whatever it may be, and being so frustrated and thinking, I need justice and I don't care if I have to skirt the system a bit to get it. Like, that makes sense to me. But there's also a reason that we have these systems in place, and there's a reason we have warrants. There's a reason we have the law and justice, and restrictions. Otherwise, these abuses happen, and they happen rather than for justice, but for political reasons or personal reasons, and people get abused by the system, which, speaking of, sorry guys, I am on it. There is a lot going on right now that I'm excited about, but Chauvin, speaking of abuse of the system, Derek Chauvin, how many years, sorry, I woke up too early this morning and my whole brain is just mush, but Derek Chauvin sentenced to like 20 something years, 22 and a half years in prison. That's wow, like that's huge. Especially a lot of people that were analyzing the Chauvin case thought it would get overturned after the initial trial, and he was convicted. And what's interesting with Chauvin, I know I'll have people once again that watch this or in my chat that do think Chauvin is 100% guilty and should be in jail, and that's fine. You're free to have that opinion, but in my opinion, I don't see the legal precedent. I don't see the guilty beyond a reasonable doubt there readily available to us. I don't see how they could say he went out with the intention to murder George Floyd. I just don't feel like if you actually read the law and read what is necessary to convict someone of murder, how Chauvin did that. Maybe in his brain somewhere he was like, I want to kill a black man today. Maybe that was what he was thinking. I don't think that's what he was thinking, but I don't know. None of us do. But how we prove that beyond reasonable doubt with the video available, the fact that it was just, general protocol for the police department, this just seems bizarre. And based on the political statements from Biden administration members and the press saying this is justice for Black Lives Matter, it 100% to me feels like this was very political. It wasn't, oh, this is just justice. It wasn't, this is how the law should work. This is where this man should be. This was justice for X activist organization, which I find very, very concerning. And once again, if you are someone that thinks Chauvin should be in jail, still consider that if this is now the precedent, if we don't really have to prove someone guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and it's simply, are they massively hated in the press, and is there kind of a press consensus against them? That is stuff that is not just going to disappear and is going to seep into other aspects of our law and treatment of individuals who are hated by the public as well. That is not just going to be a matter of this one incident that you think it was correctly used in. But if you were in a situation where there was an accidental death of another individual that you didn't intend to happen, but someone finds you tweeted out or Facebooked out something about liking Trump, and suddenly you're hated by the public, and well, screw beyond reasonable doubt. We've got a jury that wasn't sequestered and is biased and decides that you're guilty because, well, look at what all the press are saying about you. Look at what CNN said about you yesterday. That's pretty scary stuff, guys. Which has brought me to the conclusion, looking at this Tucker stuff, looking at the Chauvin stuff, even looking at the BRITNEY stuff, which we'll talk about in a minute. I'm sure a lot of you, I hope anyways, that you watched my recent video on Britney Spears. It's sad to say this, but I have really lost faith in our legal systems. Like, a lot. It's very concerning to me. I think this is coming down to the fundamental problem we are having in Western society. We have a lot of them, but the fact that, in every aspect, whether it be the frustrations I have with defamation going on, the frustrations I have with the public being spied on, frustrations I have with lockdown and pastors being arrested in Canada, or people being arrested for what seem like entirely non-malicious acts. The issues that I have with the treatment of Britney Spears. These are all like such strange, different issues, right? They don't even coincide, but the consistent problem with all of them is the legal system either not protecting us not defending us or being used against us as citizens. And this once again comes down to the problem of, in a lot of cases, we have made our legal system about who has enough money to wield it against other people. So what was supposed to be a system built to help and protect the oppressed and the most downtrodden individuals in our society, and it was supposed to be there so that we couldn't have tyrants stepping on our throats for the rest of eternity. And it was that's supposed to be it. The law, it makes all men equal. It is not that anymore at all. It is a tool wielded by the wealthy against the poor. It is a tool wielded by the politicians and the powerful against the populace. It is no longer a tool used to keep all men equal. The fact that someone could ruin your life slandering you in the media, and if they have more money than you, it doesn't matter. You can't do anything about that. How is that justice? The fact that you'd have to put a $100,000 deposit down to try to stop these lies about you. I think about that, and it's like, you think about how social justice warriors talk about justice and the downtrodden. And let's say there's we can even use this example. There's a young Black man that's living in Brooklyn, New York, and his photo is accidentally used by a large publication to describe a shooting that happened, and his photo was used for the shooter because they mixed up names. What recourse does he have? I mean, he can email CNN, he can email one of these outlets and say, hey, please take this down. But ultimately, he's not going to be able to afford a lawyer. He's not going to be able to afford someone to help him. And sure, maybe today he'd be able to get some activists out there to fight for him and try to help him. But what if the situation changes? What if Black Lives Matter no longer becomes a big issue? What if it's in fact reverses and suddenly racism against Black people is rampant again? And this is still the same precedent that you can't sue journalists. You can't fight back against the government spying on you. You can't fight back against absolutely phony, ridiculous charges that are mocked up because you just decided to attend a Trump rally on January 6th, and now you are on a no-fly list. To think that that stuff will not expand and be used against everyone and anyone at different times in history is ridiculous. And that's why I'm an anarchist. I was joking the other day on Facebook with some anarchist page saying, you know what, with everything going on in the world, there's at least a couple times a week that I just look and I'm at something, a news story, or like the taxes on my receipt, or someone asks me to put on a mask, and I'm like, I'm a full-blown anarchist for at least 5 minutes here. And then I go back and I, think about immigration policy and go down that whole rabbit hole. And I'm like, okay, we need some government. I just hate this government. Joseph says, even though Floyd was misbehaving, resisting, etc., and the whole set of videos should have been released, the reasonable doubt is defeated due to the sheer duration of the knee on the neck. Any reasonable person can conclude intentional harm or at least felony murder. So 22 years isn't unwarranted, in my opinion, but I respect your opinion, so Lauren. I appreciate that you respect my opinion. And like I said, anyone in my audience who disagrees with me on this, you are absolutely entitled to that position. The reason that I would question that is because based on the white paper that the Minnesota Police MPD, I can't remember what I'm talking about, that the MPD have been given based on excited delirium syndrome, it does say you have to detain them until paramedics arrive. And one of the processes of detaining people that is allowed within the police department's books is knee on neck. And that is displayed in multiple videos, that is displayed in documents, and was only removed from their website after the Floyd incident became an international issue. So the question becomes, okay, so they've removed that policy and it's not allowed anymore, but are you allowed to punish people in retrospect for doing that? So while it may have been, you could look at that and be like, wow, yes, your knee was on his neck too long. That was probably unnecessary and unreasonable. The books do say he can do it. So is this a problem of Chauvin, or is this a problem of the actual policing policies and of the system in place, which is why I did my video, why I think that the Chauvin trial was a disaster for BLM. They got one man, very token for them, but I don't think the problem was actually with Chauvin. I think it was with the system. And if you read the documents, Chauvin was technically allowed to do everything that he did, which it just got kind of fobbed off as, well, those things that he were allowed to do looked really bad, so we're going to put Chauvin in jail. But it's like, you're ignoring the system here. There are going to be more things that happen like this if the system have these abilities. And yeah, can you charge someone for what is in their job? What is in their job description? Like, can you have the tax man arrested for stealing if it's his job description to take your money? It's a tough question. Without the video we all saw, I think the verdict would have been different, says Sarlat. Yeah, I do think that there was it's undeniable that the media had a massive effect on the trial. The jury wasn't sequestered. They would have been watching everything. It was an international incident. How people's minds would not be impacted by that, I don't know. Joseph says any policy has to be executed reasonably. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. But I mean, that wasn't even the argument in court, right? It wasn't that, hey, you executed this policy that technically you're allowed to do, but you did it in an irresponsible, unreasonable manner. The argument was, oh, no. The MPD did nothing wrong. This wasn't even in the MPD training books. In fact, you had people testify that it wasn't in the training when that's readily visible. And basically, this felt like an entire cover-up for the system, which allows these things, to me anyways, when I observe it. It feels like the MPD literally threw him under the bus to save themselves from stuff that, here's the thing, I've spoken to police officer friends of mine that are in Canada, Australia, and the US about this. And they're like, that stuff with George Floyd happens all the time. Happens all the time. Things like that. It's just not always on video. So, I mean, we look at that and we think, wow, that looks crazy and unreasonable. But police would see stuff like that quite often. It's just not always on video. So by sentencing Chauvin because of one video that everyone was outraged by, and letting the system cover up for itself, letting them throw him under the bus to say, oh, no, don't look at us. The police, the rest of the police, absolutely perfect. This was an individual. This was Chauvin. I think that's a very interesting approach by an organization like Black Lives Matter that tend to blame systematic problems, not individuals. You know, it's always the conservatives that are like, that person over there is being racist. We don't live in a system of racism. Not everyone sitting around here is just a racist because we live in America. That person over there, that individual, decided to be racist. They're like, no, it's all systemic. It's all systemic. But for some reason, in this case with Chauvin, no, it was all Chauvin, had nothing to do with the system. Absolutely nothing to do with the police department, the training, none. It was all Chauvin, which once again, I think that's a bizarre argument from their standpoint. All right, sorry. What was I gonna, I need a bite of my cookie and then I'll move on to the next topic. Scott says, just following orders is a bad defense, but it should work against the person who gave you the order. Did you know in the Nuremberg trials, I could be just making this up. I don't think I am, because someone very intelligent told me this when I was when I was talking about Chauvin with them the other day. But apparently, in the Nuremberg trials, the people who wrote the laws actually got harsher punishments than the people who executed them. Someone look that up and tell me if I'm lying to you or not after this stream, but I'm pretty sure that's true. Yeah, the next thing I wanted to talk about was Britney Spears. What did you guys think of that video? I know it was a bit weird for me. It seems weird to do a video on celebrities. Like, Britney Spears, Paris Hilton, all these people, because it seems vain. Like, why would you care about these people? They're so rich. We have bigger problems in the world right now, Lauren. Britney Spears is like the lowest problem we could have in a world where we are all in lockdown. We've got riots and wars going on. Why would you care? But there's twofold reasons why I'll care. I care. First one is, I think, the legal situation and the abuse by Hollywood and the elites, where they can legitimately have modern day slavery, basically, because they're rich enough to afford good enough lawyers. That's terrifying. And we need to talk about that. Just because they're celebrities and they appear to have very nice lives does not mean they aren't essentially in like indentured servitude slavery to these managers. And that's a problem. These are still human beings. Being wealthy doesn't necessarily make people happier or having a better life. I mean, in fact, they've measured happiness rates in a lot of places that, where there's mass poverty or people are like living in clay huts, that, they tend to be happier than people that are richer and living in the first world. But these celebrities, just because they're rich and people look up to them and watch their content, doesn't mean they're not people. It doesn't mean they shouldn't have rights. Doesn't mean we should let them be abused by crazy management policies. But secondly, and this is something that I do think affects the world, is Hollywood in general and the type of content it puts out. They're controllers of culture. They are controllers of what we value as a society. And that, people say, famous Andrew Breitbart quote, politics is downstream of culture. So true. So if we don't look at Hollywood, if we don't look at the way that they internally operate, because, what comes out is usually a product of how our souls are doing. If you are sowing evil thoughts and, the industry that you are working in is full of deceit, assault, pedophilia, these kind of things, the stuff that you put out into the world is not going to be good and healthy. So this really matters. And in doing my Britney video, of course, I wanted to do an analysis of these celebrities, why I think they are victims, why I think that a lot of what they are putting out publicly isn't even their own thoughts. It's kind of like Manchurian Candidate. They just do what their managers say. They're kind of brainwashed, drugged out on stage, and I wanted to talk about all of that. But in a lot of ways, I wanted to display what Hollywood is to the public, and certainly I do have some young people in my audience. Show that Hollywood is not beautiful, but that it is tragic. I think that is a huge mental pivot that we, as a society, I know it's like a meme, we do live in a society. Everyone says society, but we do, as a nation, as a culture, we really look up to Hollywood, and that's what everyone wants to be. I just wish I could be a celebrity. I wish I could be a star. I wish I could be rich, famous, and powerful. And even on a spiritual level, on a religious level, political, all these things, viewing fame, power, and lots of attention on you and being able to do drugs all day and be in big movies as the ideal, that's deeply sickening. And it's just not true. And the fact that we have celebrities trying to tell us that is a blessing. They are looking at us from the pit and they are saying, do not join me here. And that is something that's very brave, because people admitting that your life is torture and that you made the wrong decisions and you're not happy, that is not something that is easy to do. We crave others envying our lives. We crave others viewing us as, that is the person I want to be. They've got it all. So these people are taking an ego hit and they're saying, please, I'm begging you, do not join me here. This is not what it looks like. This is a hell. And this is the mental shift we need to have as a culture, is to view Hollywood as tragic. Looks very nice on the outside, but it's a disaster internally, and constantly trying to keep up that facade publicly is killing these people. They're constantly putting out fires, get their manager to wake them up early out of their drugged out coma they're in. Quick, get to the set, put on your makeup. Okay, get home and cry for the next 4 hours. Then you've got another show to go to, and then another broken relationship, broken family. No, you've signed this document, so you have to give away your life. You have to say this, you have to say that. You have to apologize to China right now, or we're going to lose that $5 billion deal. Don't care about your morals. Don't care about your ethics. You don't get to have an opinion. You don't get to say what you think is true. You say what we tell you to do, or we legally destroy your life. Oh, and by the way, you're going to sleep with that producer or else. And if you say anything to the press, well, I've got agents following you and getting blackmail on you. Like, I could not think of a worse hell to live in. Could not think of it. And lots of people would say they politically disagree with Rose McGowan, and that's perfectly fine. She said things I don't agree with at all, but I think it's very brave of her to dedicate her life to saying, this is tragic. People, stop looking up to this. You don't want to be this. and to an extent, well, I don't think she's doing it for any sort of religious reason. If you are Christian, this is a very Christian message as well, to spread the truth about it. It's like the prodigal son. All right, son, leave your family, leave your values, leave us. You go party, spend all your money, do that. All right, and he comes back, just desperately wanting home again, wanting love, not wanting the riches, not wanting the parties, not wanting the fame. It's a very basic lesson, but one that we somehow have not grasped yet. And it needs to be reinforced. But I'm going to quickly look at some of the comments here. Jamo says, I want a panel show. Lauren, Daisy, Alexandra Marshall, and Evelyn, the blonde police lady. It would be like The View, but not shit. What's funny is I was actually going through some old footage. I was looking for just some old footage I had for a video I was thinking of doing. And I actually found the interview I did with Daisy Cousins. I wonder if I can show you, or if you're going to see how messy my desk is. Okay. There we go. That we filmed. So the reason I haven't published that is because Daisy and I filmed it literally a day before the Capitol riot. And we were talking about Twitter censorship. And within a few days of filming that, Donald Trump got banned from Twitter. All of these people were put on watch lists, and it was just craziness. And everything that we talked about seemed completely irrelevant after we filmed the video. We were like, just completely destroyed our whole conversation. So that sucked. It was a nice, fun video to film. I may still edit it and put it on Subscribestar. That's what I was thinking of doing. But at the same time, I'd have to ask Daisy, because like I said, we were talking about Twitter banning the day before Donald Trump got banned. So just, are we focused? There we go. I think, yeah, this camera goes blurry really easy. Anthony says, Hollywood scandals date back 100 years. Research Fatty Arbuckle and Black Dahlia. Yeah, I think there's been an interesting phenomenon in which Hollywood used to be so inaccessible. It was all because the press and the internet weren't around, and the press were still kind of, we didn't have the same kind of gossip rags that we have today. You really only saw the perfect parts of celebrities' lives. It was just these beautiful, touched up photo shoots, and there was no, hey, here's Marilyn Monroe crying over a vodka soda on her Instagram Live, which probably would have happened today. It was just the tragic, like, perfect, beautiful star, and then she's dead. What happened? It's I think the whole conversation, there's been good aspects to having more news and information out there. Think about how much easier it would have been to lie as an elite, as a king, a ruler, when we didn't have the internet, and the only news you got was that man that came out with the scroll, and the king's like, yeah, you know what? Just write that I did 700 push-ups. Yeah, you know what? Just write that we killed that guy. Whatever. No one will know. They could just, there was no way of confirming to a large amount of people that what was written down was wrong. But as we know, there have been natural consequences to all of this as well. But I do think one benefit is more information from celebrities and making them less of these unreachable, inhuman gods to us has grounded our perspective a bit. Steven says, a messy desk is a productive desk. Love that. Very true. I was just cleaning it yesterday, but I'm not going to lie. It is still messy. I'm just going to hide this side which is covered in tea mugs that keep me alive and half burnt out candles. Sorry, I've missed a bunch of questions here and I'm trying to scroll up. Thomas says, Brittney is an abuse victim. I listened to her speak and it's institutionalized slavery. Yes, absolutely. Now, what's going to be interesting and kind of scary to see is everyone agrees on this, left and right. I have not seen really any major figures be like, yes, you know, Britney Spears should be a slave to her father. Yes, that this is completely reasonable. Like, I have not seen anyone say that. Now, is that actually going to change anything? Is the fact that the entire world thinks this is ridiculous and should be illegal going to change anything? Or do the elites just have that much power? I think following this situation over the next few months and seeing what actually happens is going to be either a very encouraging event or a very depressing one. Because you look at like Chauvin, you know, there was a lot of public protests there. But is it going to be the same case? But you know what? Okay, so here's what's interesting. Chauvin, Britney Spears' father and manager. These are the people that are being publicly put on trial. Chauvin's a nobody. Chauvin doesn't have crazy money. He doesn't have connections. He's not going to call up a political party and be like, hey, man, can you do me this favor? Like, he's not going to have billions of dollars to spend on lawyers. But the public, I'd say, quite equally hate them. All the same people that were saying Chauvin needs to go to jail are saying Britney Spears' father needs to go to jail. Got free Britney movements on the street. Now, Britney Spears' father and her managers, they'd have connections with the biggest people in Hollywood, probably politicians too. I'm sure I tried looking into it, but their names are very like erased online. And I wouldn't be surprised if they paid someone to do that. There are a lot of industries in the States that you can pay to kind of erase your history, especially if you have FU money like they do. And, you know, political connections, money for the best lawyers out there, money for a sustained legal case. They've been doing this for years anyways against Britney. So is there actually going to be any justice? Or can the public justice only happen when it's a nobody that the government and the elites don't care about? Or can public justice happen in the case where it is a somebody? This is going to be very telling, my friends, very telling if Chauvin goes to jail, but these people that have institutionalized slavery do not, and I'm not even saying jail, but just Britney goes free or some kind of consequences. I don't even know if that's going to happen. Anthony says, I vote to see subscribers only for Lauren and Daisy video. Okay, I should be able to do that. Looks like it's 30 minutes long. And I think, you know, sometimes mid-video we'll be like, okay, let's take a breather. So I might have to do a cut or two, but should be able to make that happen. Lauren, can we see your video making equipment, i.e. teleprompter, camera, and lighting? You know what? My child just broke my teleprompter, but let me show you. So this is I've got a little stand behind there, but I'll attach this ring light to the stand. I'm just using natural light right now. And do I have a camera? Where did that go? Sorry. I really don't have anything fancy, guys. Just kind of the basic setup. I've been using this camera for years. So if you have been supporting me since like 2017, back when I was on Patreon, you probably helped buy this thing. But this, where did I put the teleprompter? I'll be back again. There it is. I'd say I only use the prompter for about half my videos. Just ones that I'm really not going to remember the facts for. But that attaches like that. But like I'm not sure if you can see it, but I've just glued this all back together. I'm hoping the glue will stay. We'll find out because I'm filming today after this chat with you guys. That attaches back there. And very simple, got a teleprompter app on the phone. Goes upside down, goes in there. Super exciting stuff, guys. No duct tape. I have definitely set up a studio with duct tape before. Dark times. Joseph says, doesn't Britney have connections in the highest Hollywood spheres as well? I just don't buy the daddy mean story, but I do love Britney, Lauren. You know what? Sometimes I wonder if the Hollywood life is like all of these managers are actually the ones in charge. And when there's like the red carpet events and all of these fancy parties, it's just like dropping the kid off at daycare. Okay, you go on, you have fun and take your pictures and make sure you say X, Y, and Z. And, you know, they aren't the ones with the actual power and the actual contracts. They make a lot of money, but, you know, I'd say the construction has begun again. You know, maybe in the case of the Kardashians, you look, they're the ones who own their companies. They're the ones who set them up. They have their own empire. And that to an extent is why they are so looked up to in some ways and so successful, is because it's actually all owned by them. But I do think in the case of a lot of celebrities, they don't really own their life. I know in music management, people literally in their contract, it says their manager controls what they're allowed to wear publicly and not. What, you know, if they have to wear a hat publicly whenever they go out, even just to a bar to maintain their image, the manager gets their say over that. And, you know, when you're a young kid and you're like, yeah, I really want this opportunity, I want to be big and famous, and you're not going to bother reading the fine print or considering what that kind of control on your life is going to do to you. You guys can hear it now. Steven says circular saw in the background. Well, I'm going to have to take a break here for a minute, go get myself some more tea and set up the second live stream for those of you in the producers tier and up. And I'll just go out and go throw some things at the construction workers and tell them just no. We love our construction workers. We just hate when they do it in the morning. Anthony says, and you have added a large monitor in addition to your laptop. I think I have. I did. That's a recent addition. I like how you could guess that, even though I just added it. Bought it for $50 on Gumtree from some kid. Gumtree, if you don't know, it's like the Craigslist of Australia. Joseph says, I agree. There's a little control at the breakthrough years of fame, but not later. I'll look into it a bit more. Did you listen to the Britney audio? It's pretty damning, but we'll see as the case goes on. I'll be following it. We'll be chatting about it here. We shall see. Either way, I think Hollywood is a horrible, evil den of snakes. Not necessarily everyone in it, but the industry itself is, you're either one of the abusers or the people getting abused, it seems, in a lot of cases. Not good. Just a not ideal industry. But such is most spheres that are entirely predicated around fame, money, and power. Those three things tend not to have good results. But anyways, I'm about to shut down here because I need another cup of tea if I'm going to keep going. I will set up the next live stream, and it should start in about 10 minutes, I think, for those of you in the Producers Club and up. And to the rest of you, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for joining me this morning. This has been fun. I have loved chatting. If there's any last questions you want to slip in right now, I will answer them. And I really, really appreciate your support. Like, seriously, it's I'm upping the video content. Hopefully I'll have a few more. And Randall and I have just finished I'd say there's probably still a few edits, but a final cut of Empty Love. I know it's taking forever, but as I've explained before, I just put it on the back burner, slowly chipping away at it while I do more public videos. But yeah, And I should have another video up tomorrow morning, I think. I think I'll publish, I'm not sure. I know some of you here are just in the first tier, so I don't think you would have seen it yet. But I'm very nervous about publishing it. I finally filmed a video explaining, giving the explanation back to my critics for my biggest criticism being I caused a mass shooting. I obviously did not. This is fake news, but I've never wanted to give it airtime. I've never even wanted to entertain it, but the sheer amount of people that actually believe this, including like senators in Australia who have claimed I caused shootings in Senate hearings, it just needed to be addressed eventually. It'll probably seem weird timing that I'm uploading it now without any sort of relevant news events towards it, but I don't think there would ever be a good time for explaining a controversy, and I eventually needed to give an answer. So we'll see how that goes. I think I'll upload it tomorrow morning. Jeez. Oh, exactly. Like Steven said, put it on the public record. This is one of the reasons if I do a video where you guys are like, why are you talking about this, Lauren? Or this isn't going to change anyone's mind about you. It's because I'm just putting it on the public record for the history books. So when they read the news, when they read stories about me that say I shot torpedoes at a bunch of migrants in the Mediterranean, they'll at least have something else to compare it to and say, okay, this claim seems a little ridiculous. Let's adjust that. So at least the history books might have a bit more accuracy than our current media. All right, last few comments here. Jamo says, so glad you came back to YouTube. So am I. Mike, looking forward to it. And you've been putting out a lot of interesting videos. Thank you, Mike. Daniel says, an interview in the future with Blonde in the Belly of the Beast. Your name came up on the podcast she does with Matt Christensen. I would be happy to. We haven't chatted in a bit, but definitely friends with her. She's a lovely, lovely lady. Thomas says, facts don't matter to these people. That is very sadly true. Willie, it was good. I'm not sure what you're talking about, but things are good right now. I agree. Well, not the world, but there's a lot of good things. You got to focus on the positives. Anthony says, it's the 4th anniversary of your infamous Great Replacement video. There you go. That's the occasion. Joseph, have a good day, Lauren. I will, but we may be chatting more if you come in the second live stream. Daniel, mass shooting accusations. They'll blame you for their burnt toast next. Well, I don't think those two are comparable crimes. They will blame me for their burnt toast. That is accurate. Thomas says, that's fair enough. People are too lazy to do the research and find out the truth. Let's hope they get less lazy in the future. And Jamo says, great shot with those torpedoes. Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. You'll probably see a video from me tomorrow morning, another one next week, and hopefully Empty Love very soon. And to those who are joining me in the next live stream, I will see you there. Bye.